Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of the pullboxpals. I'm Matt and this is my buddy Monk over here. Sorry, my pal Monk. We keep doing that. We keep doing the buddy thing and
we're ruining our brand. What are we doing?
I'm not your buddy, pal.
I'm not your I am your pal. I always want to do just the opposite of that. But man, before we jumped on this, when we were posting our Instagram stories for this night, I commented on your lovely shirt. You want to show off that to the viewers?
Yeah, here, let me get my chair out of the way and I'll do a little
full spin and everything.
Really
for those of you listening, Mark has a wonderful Mickey Mouse shirt you can see on our video, or you can go to his Instagram. It's on his latest poll video.
My latest poll post. So
poll post.
Yeah, I got this shirt last time I went to Disney World, which is a couple years ago now. And it's made out of like recycled material too. So it's like that kind of cool. So
wow. What a time to be alive. You get recycled material Mickey Mouse shirts.
Yeah, but it's just, and then also just like there's a bunch of different Mickey faces. It's like the same Mickey, but like different facial expressions.
Yeah, I guess I didn't say that. I mean, same Mickey, classic Mickey.
Mickey, different facial expressions.
I have a shirt that I feel is maybe a little bit fitting, but when I was getting dressed for this, when I was taking off my work clothes, oh, there it is. There's that classic pop. What do we got today? A cold
IPA.
The Wayfinder.
Oh,
your finger was kind of in front of it, so I just guessed.
Sorry, my pop interfered. Oh my gosh!
Intervention?
Interfered with what you were saying.
You crack open a beer and the first word that popped in your head was intervention.
I swear I've only had one.
I believe you. But hey, your kids are home safe and sound. But anyways, I was getting dressed for this and I'm like, I need more comic book shirts. And then I remembered that I have an Ant-Man shirt.
Oh,
and we're going to be talking about Ant-Man because I don't know about you, man, but we both saw the movie this past week, and I enjoyed the ever-loving heck out of it. How about you?
I really liked it. Probably, I would honestly just go ahead and say that like Phase 4 was what it was, and like I enjoyed a lot of the movies, but they also just kind of, I don't know. They're a little too like out there in terms of like what the MCU has been, and this one felt like a real like MCU movie in the way that like I remember watching, because after I saw it I got this like urge like, man, I need to go back and like watch the original, like the Phase 1. And so I think we put on the first Avenger the other night, Captain America. Nice. We watched Civil War. I watched Ant-Man, the first one, recently. And so, but like, yeah, for me, like Quantumania, 8 out of 10, like hands down. If I saw it again, it could change that rating. But also, like going into it, I just read all the worst reviews.
Oh, that's so sad.
Which isn't something I normally do either. I don't normally go and be like, man, I wonder what everybody's saying about it already. And but yeah, I really
you don't normally do that. But I had saw that and I was like pretty. Okay, I just need to address this. My cat just shot in and like rocked open my door. So if you heard that and or saw that, that was amazing.
I definitely heard it.
Well, I'm sorry, listeners. I didn't. That wasn't the FBI raiding the house. That was my cat.
Cat BI.
Cat BI. FB cat. It has something fun on the floor, and I feel like it's gonna ruin this podcast. But what are you gonna do? So yeah, I saw that it had like gotten terrible reviews and was doing really bad like on all the critics and whatnot. I'm so sorry about this, but There we go. Hopefully that'll stop it. But yeah, I was super nervous about it because I'm like, Ant-Man's one of my favorite characters. You know, I've talked about that a lot on the podcast, and I love the movies especially. And so I'm like, I don't want this to be bad, you know? And I was a little nervous about MODOK because I love that character a lot too. I also really love
Yeah.
Kang. So this movie, like, it's really hard for me to be objective on this. And I'm just going to be honest about that because I love Ant-Man, I
You
love
love Ant-Man.
Kang, I love MODOK. So, like, for me, this was like almost the perfect movie just like by pieces alone. I really love Stinger as a character who is Cassie Lang's. That's her as a superhero, which they didn't even allude to that, which I was a little upset about.
Yeah.
But yeah, also, I mean, there's a little bit of wonky CGI, but not as bad nearly as like Thor or No Way Home or uh,
Yeah.
Strange. You know, nothing is personally. I didn't think it was as bad as we've seen elsewise in this phase or post Endgame. But
Yeah.
I don't understand why people are hating on this movie like at
Well,
all.
from what I understand, most people are getting on it for its graphics.
I didn't. It didn't
And
bother me.
like when you're immersed in a story, like I mean,
Maybe that's what it was.
I grew up in the 90s. I mean, I saw a lot of bad like graphics, but it didn't take away from the story. You know, like I mean, even going back to like the original Star Wars, it wasn't always the best like edited thing,
Right.
but I still really enjoyed it because I was immersed in the story. And for me, it's just like the movie took me into the story. I felt very connected to it. I loved the events that happened and how they sprawled out. And like classically, it ended with, an Ant-Man and Kang fight, which was expected, but like it just was to me. It was very classic in the sense of like what MCU movies used to like feel like to me. And then also
Mm-hmm.
like this is the first one to like not explore like necessarily the multiverse, but a universe that already exists
Mm-hmm.
within the one that we live in. Like I think one of the characters says in the movie is like we live on top of this world.
Right. Yeah.
And
And
like
I think it's so earned because they spend the first two movies like talking about this place and just constantly
yeah,
alluding to it. And I think a lot of people are making complaints that it's like it's too much of a shift. And granted, it is even just in scope, but they've it's not like this came out of nowhere. You know,
yeah.
like one thing that did it's come away as like a weird like this is kind of sticking in the back of my head. Oh, our buddies
Hey,
Cole's Comics claims came through.
how's it
Waving
going,
on
Cole's
back to you.
Comics?
Yeah, but I thought it was weird that at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, spoiler if you hadn't seen that movie, the last one, the sequel, or the you know what I mean, the last movie, she has like magic powers in her fingers, and that never comes back.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
I think a lot of it was there's a lot of things in the MCU where they start like threads, but they just don't go anywhere. And that was
yeah.
probably just one of them.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
sometimes they'll just put something out there to like use for a film, and then if it works to use it in the next film, they'll do it. But
right. But I just want to say I absolutely loved Jonathan Mayer's performance as Kang. Like
yeah,
so
well,
good.
Jonathan Jonathan Major is an
Majors.
excellent Majors. He's just an excellent actor, and
Mm-hmm.
I read an article the other day just talking about him and Loki, and when he played the what's his character in Loki, like the man at the end or something
He
like
Who
that.
Remains.
He Who Remains, yeah. Um, and just talking about like that's probably the best acting we've seen in the MCU thus far, and
Yeah.
it's really hard to disagree with that because even though he's only in it for a short time, it left a huge impact, which we now also see displayed on the screen for Quantum Mania.
Right.
And yeah, so kudos to that guy and good job on Kevin Feige on bringing in a great person to play this character.
Oh my gosh, yeah, dude. Because no spoilers or anything, but this was just the teaser for what we're going to see out of him personally as an actor, and I'm so stoked. Like you are 100%. Yeah, just to jump in, we're going to be talking about this later, but Buddy Cole said nightclub is $1.99. And I feel like not enough people are talking about it.
Oh yeah, when
You are
we'll
right.
get into it.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're gonna get into. You feel like hanging out for a bit, that'll be there. But I 100% agree. I'm so confused by that. But Um, yeah. So I am just super excited to see what the future holds for, these guys and the actors. And I really love can't talk about it without getting into spoilers, but yeah, there's just a lot
Yeah.
of really cool stuff in this movie, and I would 100% recommend going out and seeing it.
Yeah. Go see it. Go see it in theaters. But yeah. So what'd you pull this week? Did you get
Oh
your
my
pulls today?
goodness. I did get my pulls today, and when I went to the good old comic book shop, our buddy, our pal, oh my goodness, in my head on the drive home, I was like, make sure you say pal, make sure you say he's our pal. Andy was at the comic shop,
Mm-hmm.
Andy Header, he was like on a guest here last season. I have one of the beefiest stacks I've had in some time, and his was easily double mine.
Oh yeah, he spends a lot on comics.
Oh, not even. He's just I won't even say it like that. He's just a connoisseur. The man
Yeah.
is. He knows what he likes. He's a
He knows
genius.
what he wants. Yeah.
He's also very open to me being like, "This is a good comic. You should read this."
Yeah.
Like he's not like, "No, that's beneath me because I know." Cole also got a whole lot of comics. Got so many comics today. Biggest new comic book in a while. Yeah. I also almost got some variants too of one since you asked me what I got. I'll start with I meant to pick this up last week, but I am a huge fan of this cover.
Oh yeah.
This is a variant of the Wasp #2. Meant to
Oh
pick that
nice.
up last week, but yeah. But since we started with Marvel, I'm pretty excited about this because this is one that Andy talked me into. I know this isn't Marvel, but it's one of the big two. Got Superman #1.
The original Marvel.
Yeah, so the art in this looks really, really good. So I'm excited to dive into that. I'm trying to find like a good page. There you go. Like it looks like very fun. Like I opened to like
This actually brings up a good question for me because I was talking with my son about like the quality of comics right now, and it's just like, there's a lot of respect for Marvel and DC, and I was telling him like, but there's the better storytelling seems to be in the hands of DC right now. But I also admitted, admittedly, as people probably know who keep up with this, I really only read Batman from DC and don't read much. So like, I want to know,
yeah.
I want to pose a question. Uh, what DC like should be being read right now?
That's a good question. Yeah, because I'm especially, with the movies coming up, I'm excited. We've said it before, like it's not necessarily where we're drawn to, but we're not opposed to those things. We just, we like good stories, So
Yeah.
wherever the stories are, give us the stories, baby. But a story that I'm excited for, and I would believe you are as well. This is Blue Book.
Oh yeah.
Number
I'll pull
one
mine out right
from
here.
Dark
I
Horse
don't
Comics. This is
I don't know which
James.
cover I got, but
That's a dope cover.
I don't think I think you have. Do you have another
Mine's also a
variant?
variant. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think that either of these are the actual like main cover.
No, but I'm super stoked on this. The art in this as well is just so cool. It looks again like so like I love how they're just using all like the same color. They're just staying
Yeah.
with that palette. That's so cool.
And,
Like
and another thing too about my cover is, remember how like this face of an alien was just super popular in like the late 90s and early 2000s, like that Y2K era? Like
yeah,
all that's
100%.
coming back, and these images are coming back on trend as well. So this is really cool to have.
That's because the aliens are coming back, Mark. It has nothing to do with anything else.
They
It's
always
the
are,
aliens.
they're always
Well,
coming back.
I'd like to think that they live in my heart. But something that definitely lives in my heart is Specs. This is number 4. This is, as
Got
we
mine
like to
right
say,
here.
the perfect amount. So yeah, this is gonna be the last one. How you feeling? Are you nervous about this at all? I'm
About
kind of
Specs?
yeah, I'm honestly a little bit nervous that it's just
I
gonna
am
like
I am
I don't
yeah,
know.
I'm a little nervous too, but we'll
Well, I
take
guess
it as it comes.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we'll have to do a roundup next week on it. I imagine
Oh,
so.
I'm sure we will.
I mean,
Um,
I was just gonna say I'm just kind of burning through my comics. I feel like I'm just talking about all of them, but they're all interesting. I got
so
Local Man number
th-
1.
this is one of the ones that I was talking to you backstage. There was 3 indies that came out today that I really wanted to get. My shop didn't get them, and I didn't ask for them. But Local Man is one
Yeah.
of the ones that I ordered.
So it's about like a discredited superhero in this world where like superheroes are kind of, it's similar to The Boys. It's I feel from like there's like they have management and there's teams and stuff like that. And he got disbarred from the superhero community, so he's like no longer allowed to do superhero stuff like
Huh.
without like the consent of his agency or whatever it is. But I what got me hooked was I was reading the description and it said the words noir and superhero, and I'm like, I'm in. If that's what you're trying to
That's
go
me.
for,
I'll take that.
I'll take that. Yes, please. And then just the last two, both from Aftershock. Uh, got the Bulls of Beacon Hill #2, which I believe you would have gotten as well.
I did not, because
no.
this is one of the ones that I ended up
That's
having to
right.
order
Yeah.
issue 1, and I don't think I got it to my shop in time that I wanted to keep getting it. But if my shop hasn't, I might just wait for the trade.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually probably the route I'm going to go with it.
That's a good call. But and then the last one is the Vineyard #4, and this wraps it up for this as well, I believe. And I've been really enjoying this. I follow Brian Hawkins on Instagram, really cool dude. Great story. I will probably I'll do a little summation of that next week. But yeah, man,
Right.
I super enjoyed my pulls this week. How about you?
Oh, I'm pretty excited. But before I get into what else I have that you didn't get, so yeah, Local Man's one of the ones that I ordered through our suggested place to order comics from, Comics and a Coffee, from our friends over at the Pullbox Lair. And so I ordered Local Man, and I also got from Whatnot Publishing Liquid Kill #1. I don't have a cover to show for it, obviously, but
Yeah, that's fine. I hadn't heard of that at all.
I only heard about it because I've been following You Promised Me comics a little more closely, just because like they're also friends with Hedrick, and I was talking with Hedrick about them more, and they also are the ones who did the 2022 comic book indie awards.
Yeah, you're looking puzzled. It's because we didn't even talk about it. You got to meet him last weekend, right?
Yeah, I did.
Our pal,
I got to
Jonathan
go meet
Hedrick.
our pal Jonathan Hedrick. He was at Fan Expo Portland, and I went up with my son, and he signed a few of my comics, so all of my Dream Masters and Hyper
There was
Aware.
trillions.
And then I got it right here, and I might talk about it a little bit later. Recount. I bought that from him there, and I actually got his. Gosh, I had it over on the other side earlier, but yeah.
Here they come. Oh,
he gave me a little signature there too. Oops,
that's awesome.
There we go.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, and I'll probably talk about Recount later. But yeah, it was cool to see him. I met his wife too.
Pulled that up too quick. Local Man
Yeah.
was Cole's comics pick, his top pick, and You Promised Me comics are good people. That's great. I love the indie comic scene online. It's so much fun.
I just love the community, man. Like that's one of the reasons I do this. Like, yeah, you and I do this, but this has been our thing for a couple of years now. I mean, like it started off with just being on the phone. We brought it here, but since we started doing the podcast, just the people we've met has been like probably one of the biggest joys of it all. And I love it, and I want to keep it going.
Let's end it.
let's yeah, it's over, man.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. This is over. But yeah, there was one other one that I was able to ask my shop to get for me, and it's not coming to me right now. But yeah, so I got 3 more coming that came out today. So and then my actual pulls. I hadn't gotten there yet. Here we go. One of the series I'm most excited about, Boogeyman.
Nice.
So this is issue 6. It came out today. Number 3, I believe, of Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles. And then we got some Dark Horse action here with Star Wars High Republic Adventures. This is the Nameless Terror. So this is an issue 1. It's a 4-issue series. And lastly, I got Yoda. So I got my Star Wars. I'm only doing Yoda. Well, besides like the ones that Dark Horse is putting out, I'm only doing Yoda and Darth Vader now for Star Wars.
Wow, you're cutting really back. Well, hey, that's what Marvel Unlimited exists for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just Cole said, I loved issue 1. Probably a Boogeyman. Yeah, we'll probably review the trade of Boogeyman when it comes out. You've been loving Boogeyman, right?
I love Boogeyman. Like it's super super good, and one of our pals over at the Lair, they're also
Kyle.
reading it as well. Kyle's reading it. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm really liking Boogeyman, but I also really like old lore brought new, and
Yeah.
I feel like Boogeyman doesn't get as much
Let's put a pin in
spotlight.
that. Let's
Yeah,
just remember that you say
let's
you
put a
like old.
pin.
Yeah, we have a comic that we want to talk about, and
Yeah,
it's so nice to be back in this world. It
yeah,
feels like it's been like such a long time since we've been there last.
yeah,
But 8 Billion Genies number 7 came out last week,
yeah,
and I didn't get it physically, so I had to depend on the old tablet there to deliver. And man, what a
yeah.
good comic. How about
It, yeah.
you, Mark?
Man,
Man,
I loved it, and I honestly think it might be my favorite of the series so far, just because we've always known we're getting 8 issues, and so much
mm,
ended in this issue.
hmm
And we had been talking about before too. It's like how we know the next one's the next 80 years or the first 80 years. So what's gonna happen? And so yeah, it starts off at the end of the first decade, and what's his face, the idea man's meeting with the lawyers that help him phrase how to wish a specific wish that he inherited from somebody else or whatever,
right, yeah,
and they're just like, nope, we're not doing it anymore. And then the lawyers are like, if you have any problems with that, and they bring all of the genies out that they've been paid with, because
right,
that's the most crucial thing you can have in the world is a genie. And so the more of
hmm
them you have, then the wealthier you are. And so yeah, it was 9 years leading up to 10 days that was the kickoff, and then it gets into the first 8 decades, and the human population is now 0.2% of what it was in the beginning.
I don't think
So
I haven't been following along with that. I forgot
yeah,
about that was something that they listed the population at the
yeah. So
beginning.
the initial population was 8 billion humans, 8 billion genies,
Right.
and the humans now at issue 7 are at 18,801,000.
Interesting.
And so that's at the start of the or at the end of the first decade. So
Wait,
that's a lot of
did you say that was the genie or the human population?
That's the
That's the
human
human.
population. And then the
Right.
genies,
Oh, right.
99.99% of the genies have been used up. So
Wow.
there's only 200 some thousand left of them.
Uh-oh, we're
And
getting down there.
yeah. And so now it just becomes this battle of who has the most genies, because they're the most powerful person in the world. And so at year 10, the idea man, or yeah, sorry, no, we didn't open. That's where it opened up after it announced that. It opens up with
The
the
Chinese
Zhang
fam.
family. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're out to
And I
sea trying to find a haven to stay at.
Right. And I
Yeah.
really wanted to say that I loved that opening scene because it was very reminiscent of the earlier issues where you just saw this extremely absurd thing happening while people are
Yeah.
trying to survive. And that's I'm going to be honest, I enjoyed the former half of this comic, but the first 4 issues probably a lot more than I'm enjoying the latter half.
Oh,
But I
okay.
enjoyed it's just been too spaced out. I really enjoyed that, and that was my ultimate issue with this issue was kind of the gaps in between
Yeah.
everything, and understandably so because they're trying to cover 80 decades, but it seems like you're leaving out crucial things. But anyways, I feel like I cut you off in the middle of telling the story.
But yeah, no, it was just it did open up with the Zhang family, and they entered into the haven of El Futuro, and there nobody under 25 is allowed to use their genie. And so the
Right.
Jongs have their small child with them who has a genie, and that comes out into play later on in the issue as well. But it just brings in all this new politic to
Mm,
the world after, and I just thought every story was just perfect for what it needed to be. Hope's Hollow opens up with Sunman's I guess in a way we could be spoiling this, but it's been a week.
yeah.
um but yeah, so
Something happens that's
Ed,
crucial to
yeah,
Sunman.
something happens to Ed, which then happens to June, and Sunman is left with a lot of questions. And
Mm,
I don't know. I just thought each individual story being told and like how it, almost structurally placed out like what haven it was in at the time for that story and like the big thing going on. And like I think one of my favorite ones though was going back to the Jongs, just going into El Futuro, and there's kids there who are now in their
Mm-hmm.
late teens, and you're starting to see them like as these angsty teens, like Li Feng, the
Mm-hmm.
daughter, says like, my name's Betty now. And like that
Right.
guy's just
Yeah.
like, good for you. Like, way to change the name your parents gave you.
Yeah.
Um,
It was very nice, but I it was easier to how do you say, like, recognize or like be empathetic with those characters because they were a little bit more fleshed out than like the band. I feel like the band has definitely gotten like the short end of this story. They're definitely like
they
the sea
did.
line story
Yeah.
because like we just jump over to them and they're like they were really happy and then they all died.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not a spoiler. It's 80 years and they were, 20. They're just humans. None of them
Well,
wished for immortality.
and I think that that's going to come into play in the last issue a bit more, just because,
Yeah.
like, if you remember, I don't remember which issue it was, but like the three band members all like used one of
Decided
the
to
two
share their
genies
wish.
left, that like the last genie had to be agreed upon wish or whoever the last one standing was.
Right.
And so both guys of the group have now passed on, and it's left to what's her
I
name?
remember it.
Daisy.
Sure.
Yeah.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I enjoyed it for like I said, it was so fantastic to be back into the world of 8 billion genies. I
Hmm.
My only thing that I could say is that I just want more from this world. It's not that
Hmm.
I it's not that I didn't like this issue. It was just like, man, it sucks to be blowing 25 years at a jump. It seems like, and
Yeah.
because I'm just like, you're missing so much, like so many weird things and maybe they're not, maybe because things are starting to level
Yeah.
out,
I
things are a
mean,
little
this
bit
the
more
story
normal.
goes kind of exponentially, because it starts off like in the ninth year leading up to the 10th, and then it's the 10th, and then the 15th, and then the 20th year, then 21st, 23rd, 25th, 26th, and then it jumps from there to the 45th, and then from there it jumps to the 80th year. And so
Yeah.
like there the it's an exponential growth, but it's just the storytelling was just absolutely great for all of them. But yeah, there's a lot of
Agreed.
stuff that's going to be missed. And so I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe we'll get another 8 billion genies series that explores the years within.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't need it. So
Yeah.
like it's just me being picky and just like really being like again, like I don't want this to be sound as like I'm not enjoying this. It's just more of like maybe because it's coming to an end. Maybe because one of my favorite things about this comic was seeing the world in the background and like all that
Mhm.
initial chaos was definitely like my favorite thing. I'm enjoying seeing like how the civilizations are settled because I remember last issue or last I always say this last issue instead of last episode, but it seems fitting here. Last issue, we were talking about Darkland and how that's like post apocalypse, and this is definitely post uh G Day, and it's yeah, so it's that the building of the world is interesting to me, but I'm sad that I'm not getting to see more of how they interact with each other or even just like day-to-day life for the people within the different communities. But the
Yeah.
stories of that we're following of the initial characters who were in the bar are all very interesting. They're all intriguing, and I'm excited to see where they go. There's just so much out there that's weird and wacky, and I love a good old weird and wacky world.
Yeah, like I mean, I would like to know more about Fun City and like the good times they had, because it was very clear that they were happy at the end of their lives, but it's like, what made it
Yeah,
so fun for them that
they
they
were very it
enjoyed,
was very much just like they were surrounded by love and art and peace and people that cared about him, and it's
and
just like, okay,
music.
the he wants oh yeah, I guess I didn't even say the most crucial thing to him. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I'm this is we were talking earlier about specs being nervous about how that's going to be ending. I'm shaking in my boots about how this is going to be ending.
Darn tootin'.
Darn tootin'. Oh my goodness. All right, buddy. Well, what's the other one that we want to get into?
We're gonna talk about Nightclub now, which
Nightclub.
yeah, which going back to Cole's comics, they brought up that it's only $1.99, and
Yeah.
if it's not selling well, I don't understand why, because $1.99 is cheap, and we're actually getting a really good story out of this. It's by Mark Miller, and for me, like, these issues have just been getting better. I mean, we only have the first three, but like issue 2 is better than issue 1. Issue 3 is
Mm-hmm.
better than issue 2, and
Mm-hmm.
I just really enjoyed this one just because it's bringing in some like adversity to the three main characters. They're kind of like, in a way, they're kind of a mix of like Spider-Man trying to do like the right thing while masked and keep their identities secret, but then they're also kind of now being like Iron Fist and Luke Cage, and that they're heroes for
Heroes
hire.
for hire. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
I like that aspect of it. I will say, I feel like I'm just being super critical tonight, but it reminds me a little bit of Kick-Ass, which is hard
mm,
for, and granted, like Kick-Ass, I think is still on my wall back there. Yeah, Kick-Ass
yeah,
Volume 2 is one of my favorite comics, you know? So like I'm not saying that as being like it reminds me of that because every time I'm like, oh, I'm back in that Kick-Ass world and I enjoy it. I like being, this I really like the idea of like a kid who gets superpowers, is aware of the idea of superheroes, and then just trying to figure out how to best utilize that in this crazy world that they're got thrust into. And you're right that we definitely start in this issue to see probably, how do you say this, hints at the bigger world and potentially, larger threats and things to come.
yeah,
And I'm so happy I didn't jump off of this. I really didn't enjoy issue number 1 that much, so I'm happy that I stayed on
yeah.
and
Well, and it's
riding this
like,
wave.
I did you get issue 1 when it came out, or did you get it after? You can't. Okay. And I remember talking with you about it. And like, I think the thing that issue 1 did really well was it established the main character and it established the world.
Hmm.
And then from there, you really don't have anything else to do but like go up from there.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah. So Cole's just commented issue 2 is probably the least favorite.
Oh, sorry.
Um, yeah. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, I like issue 3 is better than issues 1 and 2. I'll put it that way. But like issue 2 is just like a little bit better than issue 1, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I also
And
didn't notice that Cole said, I will check out 8 Billion Genies out in trade. I passed on the first issue. Oh, man. That's a bummer. It's so good. But yeah, you'll love it in trade because you can just burn right through it instead of
yeah,
having to do this like grueling wait and like try to like figuring stuff out. But
the
yeah.
anticipation for like each next issue has been honestly a bit crippling. Like,
That's what I'm saying. When we were like getting into it, I'm like, oh my god, it feels like forever since we talked about this comic, and we both like really loved it. Like, it's
yeah,
100% gonna be. It was on our top comics, I think, or at least like mentioned last year for top comics, and it'll
yeah,
probably be on for this year. But
yeah.
anywho, we're not talking about that. We're
Nightclub.
talking about another good comic.
But yeah, so like Nightclub issue 3, it also like, it doesn't, it brings in another group of vampires. They're not, we get to see something that our three main characters, what Danny and his two friends, I can't remember what their names are off the top of my head, but
Yeah, I can't. I don't
um
have the comic in front of me either.
but yeah, so like they're going through their teenage I'm a vampire and now I can be a superhero phase, and it's really exciting. They're making YouTube videos, they're having fun with it.
Yeah,
But then lurking off somewhere else and nearby is this other group of vampires. And I think that the leader of this group might be the guy who turned Danny. I'm not quite clear on that.
interesting.
Anybody can fact check me and let me know that I might be wrong about that, because I might be.
Do you mean like
But
the cop who turned him?
yeah, I think that might be the cop.
I don't know about that. I don't think I don't. I'd have to go back and look at issue 1 because I haven't looked back at it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what that guy looks at. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a little dive
Well, I guess we could
because
just well, maybe he's not the leader. There's the cover right there. I don't know.
oh, you mean that? I don't think that guy. I don't think that's the same
Yeah,
dude.
I don't think it's the same guy either.
Yeah,
But anyway, but I really like how this group was like introduced, and they're like ransacking a house that they just took over and obliterated the mom and dad, and uh or apparently feeding the child to Ma or whatever. I don't
well, like
know.
that the old lady and
The
I
old
mean,
lady
yeah,
in the clear casket with
yeah.
her eyes just open and staring.
But here's
Like,
to go back like to our pin that we talked about bringing old stuff to
okay,
modern
here we
time.
go. Yeah.
I am enjoying this story. I am enjoying other stories that I've read with similar themes. But if I have to read another vampire story, I think I might drive a stake through my own heart because I was never that big into vampires. And it feels like every other comic that comes out is about vampires. And
Vampires are
I'm
hot
at
right now.
apparently, but I'm just like, give me anything else. A werewolf? Can I have a werewolf, please? Like, and it's not again, it's not that I'm against these things. It's like just too much of it. Like I
Yeah.
don't understand why it's such a popular thing right now. Like everybody's doing a vampire thing, or it
Well, and
just
it
has
just,
vampires in it.
and I mean, like Dracula, like vampire stuff, like that is like the poster child of like horror. Like that's what Superman is to DC, and I guess Captain America or Iron Man to
Sure.
Marvel.
It's like,
Like that's just like the flagship thing, and so it does, and like that's it also too. Like, again, why like I said what I said. It's just like, I read a lot of vampire comics. Like there's more comics on this shelf behind me than are displayed, but like there's
yeah.
probably at least 4 vampire series on this shelf right now, like 4 different ones that are
That's
currently
great.
going on.
I'm
Like
glad that you
Little Monsters is on there, Bloodstained
Yep.
Teeth.
Yep.
West of Sundown,
Yep.
which is actually an exploration of like all that lore.
Yeah.
Um, but like it's still just, yeah, there's a lot of vampire stuff going on, but like horror comics are also just a little bit on the rise in general too.
That's true. But I will say, like, if you love those things, then God bless you. Like, this is your time to shine. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's just why am I being so I'm trying not to be negative tonight. I feel like I've only said like bad things. I loved it was so my favorite thing
Do you
about
not have your tea with you?
no, I don't have I have water. Maybe that's what it is. I just have
See,
water in
you
a
don't.
fun mug.
You gotta drink that tea, man, because
Mm.
that's what makes you happy.
That's what brings me to life, not the source of life itself.
Mm-mm.
But no,
No.
I really enjoyed the montage where they all like did like an action thing and said their name, and it was like a YouTube ad for their Hero for Hire stuff. I really enjoyed it. Oh, buddy Cole's heading out for the night.
Hey, thank you
Going
for
to
hanging out, man. Appreciate it.
enjoy Power Rangers. Night, buddy. Pal. We're doing it. We're so on brand. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say. How
Yeah.
about you?
No, and it also too, what was the series? So Samurai Doggy, I had mentioned like the first 3 issues like felt like an issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
And but I'll also just make like the argument too, like to me, Nightclub's been a lot better in its first 3 issues. But they also kind of feel like you could have condensed this all into like a larger paged issue 1, or
Yeah.
like a more pages than like the standard 28 or whatever they are.
Yeah, 32. It would
32.
be like a
Yeah.
62. Yeah, that would have been great to have like this entire arc, like or these first 3 issues. Or I think I don't know. It's really hard to say where like a good like ending point for this was because so much was crammed into that first issue. There's even
Yeah.
something to be said of like maybe it should have like ended at like the accident, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, it's
But
just like, yeah, this issue 3 was definitely act 3 of like the beginning of whatever is coming. I don't know how many issues this series is supposed to be.
yeah, I
Um,
don't either. I would be willing to I think it might be even ongoing. So it might be
yeah.
just be like 5 or 6 the first arc and then, keep on blasting it out.
Yeah.
But hey man, would you how would you feel about if I got into some of the stuff that I read this week?
Yeah, man. Let's hear what you read this week.
Well, I don't we talked about it, so I was gonna do this whole thing of being like, I don't know if you heard about this movie that came out this week, but again, Ant-Man. I just went into Comixology and just searched Ant-Man and pretty much just picked up all the stuff that I hadn't had before.
Okay.
And one of the ones that I got into was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Living Legends.
Mm.
And so this is a one shot by Ralph Macchio. Ralph Macchio? Isn't that a
Yeah.
that sounds like a who is that?
That's Karate Kid.
Is it really the
Yeah, Ralph
Karate Kid
Macchio is the
wrote
Karate
this?
Kid. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if that's who wrote it. I'll look it up while you talk, but
Yeah, go ahead. That'd be very interesting.
it's
But
Ant-Man and the
the art
Wasp Legends.
Living Legends. and it's the art is Andrea Di Vito. But this was just, like I said, a one shot, just quick little dip into Ant-Man. This is post the astonishing Ant-Man run in 2015, which is my favorite. Might be one of my favorite comics of all time, but it's definitely my favorite Ant-Man comic. And so yeah, he's driving around in his security solutions van, and he goes to the Wasp, and they're just hanging out together. And then when he's at like wherever the Wasp is, she gets this call from this other guy from a previous issue. So like this is a callback to astonishing or Tales to Astonish number 49. So we're going really far back. But there's this guy in Dimension Z, and they just jump in there and just start fighting. And I was talking to Andy about this at the comic shop, that it's so nice to just like, I really enjoyed it because it was so reminiscent of like the first Avengers comics, because they were just one off, like, oh no, this big thing is happening, we're gonna go and we're gonna fight, and then that's it, and then maybe there was a little bit of a through line story, but not much. And so it was just that I love that about comics, and that's what the Ant-Man movie felt like, and that's what this comic definitely just delivered a quick, good punch of a story, man. So I enjoyed it very much.
Well, I'm gonna do something for you, and I'll see what I can find of Ant-Man, and I'll give him a little bit more of a go.
Did you find out if that was Ralph Macchio who wrote it?
So no, there's another Ralph Macchio in town.
Interesting.
Yeah, but like they almost could be related. It seems like.
That's
I'm
also
looking at the picture of comic creator Ralph Macchio, and he doesn't look exactly like Karate Kid Ralph Macchio, but they could be family.
This might be a like undercover, like I don't know what this is. We stumbled onto a weird part of the
tune in next week as Matt explores the Ralph Macchio universe.
Yeah. All right, man. What did you get into?
Oh, what did I get? I got into a few. I read a few volumes this week.
My volumes.
But going back to that, I met with our pal Jonathan Hedrick. I picked up the Recount, which I already showed. And so when we interviewed him, I had read the Recount preamble, which is a prequel to the story that's over here behind me. And and so and it obviously like led me to be like, okay, so like what did all this stem from? Like, why did we need this story? And like, you don't really know much about the main character of preamble throughout the Recount. And so I would recommend like first like read the Recount and then go back and read the preamble. But yeah, like it opens up with the president of the United States is assassinated while he's giving his resignation speech, like almost like right at the end of his speech. And it sets off this whole like chaotic situation in the States. And people who voted for that president are now just being killed in the streets. And it's all because like a recount was never had over this election. And like you learn that from like preamble that like the election that initially put this president into office, it seemed very skewed because like polls had showed that it was nearly 80% favor for Philip Pontus, who was the vice president, and his president running mate. But they ended up losing in like a landslide, but nobody really ever like got into truly investigating it. And then all these events happen as well for Phil Pontus, who is the main character of preamble. And so like it just goes to this thing, and you have this terrorist leader in the Recount who's running this terrorist group. They all wear different kinds of masks. He wears like a clown mask, not like Pennywise, but like similar to like big red nose and white face and red hair. And it just goes to this story about them trying to take down essentially the existing government. I mean, they already got the president. They started killing off all the people of the electoral college. And it like ends with them going after like the new the former vice president, now president, like that's kind of like where it ends in this one is there's a showdown with the vice president and the main terrorist organization like leader. They both walk away from it, but I know like Jonathan had mentioned that he's either written already volume 2 and is just waiting for like the artist connection, or I can't remember what he said, but
Right.
I really enjoyed this series. It was like chilling in a lot of ways, just like
Whoa.
like in a what if scenario, like what if this really happened.
Nice,
And
man. That
it
sounds
was,
like a good
yeah.
read.
So again, here we are tooting the horn of our pal Hedrick, because he really is just an amazing writer. Like he's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, toot because he definitely deserves it.
Oh, and I also like I mentioned that his wife was there at the expo with them, and she was there with her own booth because she's an artist. She's a comic book
That's awesome.
artist. So I
That's so
didn't
cool.
know that going into talking with them, but yeah, they're super sweet people. So I was glad to
They're a
support him
power
in
couple.
reading his work again and meeting him. So
That's great. Well, hey man, the only other comic that I really want to talk about this week is Mosely #2. I got into that, and yeah, I really don't have much to say other than it just continues to be good. I really enjoyed the world. You know, it's just a quick catch up. It's about a man who kind of hates technology, lives in this world that's kind of overrun by technology. He was a part of a government experiment, had to do something with what are those things called? Like AI robots. Essentially had to teach them how to be human. And so now those things kind of rule the earth. And there seems to be like 3 of them. Like there's like a trinity that kind of are like make up the power grid or make up like the technology that kind of runs society. And in this issue, he takes down one of them. But in doing so, he realizes that the people don't think that they're being liberated. The people think that they're going after their gods, essentially, and they call them gods. So the people start like freaking out. And he was like, I'm ignorant to think that that there wouldn't be pushback from this, of like trying to like rapidly change society. But he doesn't really know why he got these powers. He was just like randomly imbued with them, you know? So super interesting story. That's from Boom. So I'm gonna just keep on riding that. But yeah,
I love Boom, man. Boom puts out some really great stuff.
dude, Boom is putting out. I'm bummed. Oh, I did. The only thing I got from Boom this week is specs, and like I mentioned a couple weeks back, they had that like little standee in my shop with all Boom
Oh
comics.
yeah.
Yeah, been starting to check that out, and just this week, I think it was something that's killing children or something like that. Something in that
Yeah.
world was out, but yeah, good job, Boom.
I wish I was current with something as killing the children. I'm playing catch up.
I know. I wish I don't. When did that start to come out? We reviewed it, but
I mean, like
was it
the initial series was probably 2018, around
okay?
circa 2018, I'll say.
Sure. Yeah. So we weren't really into comics then. But
Yeah. Yeah.
well, hey man, you
So
want to?
yeah,
Whoa. All
next
right.
one that I got.
There you go.
So I had read about Red Winter, and then saw that they had a sequel coming out called Red Winter Fallout, and so I purchased volume 1 of Red Winter, and then I had been waiting for issue 1 of Red Winter Fallout to come out. And then when it came out, it didn't come to my pull box, and so I didn't get it. And then I ended up getting issue 2 before I got issue 1. So then I was like, why didn't I get issue 1? And they're like, oh, I don't know. So anyways, they got it to me, and so I read volume 1 and issues 1 and 2 of Fallout this week, and it's just a really fun, like washed up detective story. So yeah, it follows Eli Winter, and he's an ex New York City cop or detective, and he now works for like a crime lord in Russia. He lives in like the oil refinery area of Moscow. And
Nice.
yeah, and so it's just like dirty and grimy and cold and dark. And like that's another thing I
Whoa.
really appreciated about like the comic itself too, is just how the colorist used color to display what I just mentioned. Like it just like green wasn't ever vibrant. It was just kind of like dull and
Like
sad.
moss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it was just like a mossy green. And like the dialogue, they don't, they do the little asterisk with like translated from Russia or from Russian. And so like,
translated
but
from Russia with love.
yes, translated from Russia with love. That's how they do it.
And this is from Scout, right?
It's from Scout, yeah.
Oh, I might have to get this because it looked really good. And then everything that you're saying is just like tickling my like, I'm gonna enjoy this box.
Yeah, and so like the dialogue was just really good, and it's a situation in which Eli, who's the primary antagonist of the first series, his son gets him mixed up. His estranged son shows up and has got his dad all mixed up in this thing with the crime lords, but he works for the crime lords. And yeah, so if you're gonna read it, I'm gonna try not to spoil too much, but like
I think I'm gonna have to at least get it digitally. Did they have the trade paperback digitally?
Trade paperbacks available digitally. You can just get it through Scout Comics.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to do that then because it sounded so good, and I do love Scouts. So yeah, maybe don't spoil it for me because I think I would like to dive into this.
But yeah, so Fallout picks up right after like series 1 or the first series ends, and like now it's the focus seems to be on like the Russian police, and they're trying to put together, because essentially what happens at the end of volume 1 is there's this huge battle between the two primary like gangs that are involved, and I can't remember what they call themselves, but and like one of the leaders is dead, and so it opens up with this detective just being like, what happened here? And
that's silly.
And then also like the US has gotten word that one of their ex FBI agents has been found dead in this city in Russia, and so they have to send somebody out incognito. And so like it's kind of focusing on that, but then one of the, I'll just say, survivors is kind of on the run trying to get out of Russia now. And so there's kind of 3 stories that are developing of just the Russian police, the US government, and then one of the main characters from the first series trying to get out. So it's been really, really exciting, and I've really enjoyed it. So kudos to that team. I forgot to write down the creators, so I apologize to everybody, but it's a quick Google.
Yeah, you can Google that while I'm saying that. I think I'm gonna have to dive in on this because I'm a big fan of, like I said, everything that you said. Scout Comics, Russia, just disgraced detective, retired detective, dead detective. It's all sounding
detective who has had his woes and is no longer actually a detective but has respect.
There you go. That's what I want to be when I'm older.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. And then the other volume that I ended up reading, so I found myself at a Barnes and Noble the other day, and
as one tends to do.
Yeah, and Barnes and Noble right now has buy one get one free for Image trade paperbacks.
Oh,
so one of the ones that I got out of that is,
I should go to a Barnes and Nobles, but the closest one to me is 45 minutes away. Ugh.
Yeah, same here. Like mine's not closed. But our pals over at the Comic Book Lair, they've been reviewing this, and they just reviewed volume 3 this week, and that their episode's out on that. But this is Middle West volume 1.
Nice.
And man, I really, really enjoyed it. I don't like it. It's very like childlike because you are seeing it through the eyes of a child. But it's also like, I don't really understand this world. And that's what's like kind of gripping about it for me, is that like he seems like he's starting out in just like a stereotypical American farm town.
Yeah.
But there's all this like old mystic stuff around, like he can communicate with the fox, and but like everybody else can also talk to this fox, and then like the wind has
it's
like
just a social fox.
Yeah,
it's just a fox that's it's like Meowth.
He just wants friends to talk to, like everybody. He's just a fox.
Let's not shame the fox.
But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and just wanted to thank those guys too for like putting it on my radar, because they've been having fun reviewing it, and so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna read it because of them. So I did. Nice. So now I got to wait until I get my hands on volume 2, and then I think volume 3 might be the last one, and I don't know if it's going anymore. I haven't really looked into that much, but I'll find out. And then one other thing that I read this week
My goodness.
was Eternus #2 that finally came
Ah,
out. And
let's hear about it. What you think?
well, I really enjoyed it. I hated waiting for it because it was like months, like
Oh yeah.
not like 3 months, but like it was like it's been like 4 or 5 months. I
Yeah,
think
I want
I
to say
think
that it came out in the summer even. Like
yeah, but
it
like
feels like a long wait.
yeah, it was in September, I believe, that issue 1 came
Okay.
out. And so issue two actually had the release date of today, but I got it last week for some reason, which I wasn't mad about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just getting more into that world of Christianity's taking over the world, and all these like Greco-Roman gods that are still around are trying to figure out what to do next. And we saw
Mm,
a couple of them die in the first issue. But I just really like the world that it's building of, yes, Christianity is coming in and these ancient gods are kind of like on their way out, but
mm,
they're like fighting for like their lives in a way.
yeah.
So
Wow.
really enjoying it. Issue 3 is supposed to come out next month,
We
hopefully.
didn't learn more about the guy who was like doing the killing of the gods.
Uh, I gotta remember.
Or is there a couple of them? Is it just like a
I think
because it's
there might be like a group of them, but
okay. Interesting.
but yeah, I'm probably gonna reread it, to be honest, but I did really
That's fine.
enjoy it. So but yeah, that's all I read this week. I mean, there was probably a few other things I read this week as well, but
Man, look at you rock star. I'm gonna
yeah.
try to get into Irredeemable Ant-Man. That's the Eric O'Grady Ant-Man, which I've never
Oh
read
yeah.
any of. But again, I feel like I'm just trying to fill in that lore. And so that's something I'm looking forward to getting into this week. But honestly, man, this stack that's sitting here in front of me, there's a lot of really good comics. A lot of comics came out this week. So
Yeah.
and man, I didn't so many. So
Felt like I
what
got
a
a doable amount this week. So
yeah, I'm questioning my decision as I'm sitting here, but again, they're all things that I want to read. None of them were I bought because I felt really obligated to. All of them I just actually just really want to get into, which is a problem because I feel like at the beginning of the year we were like we only want to read like small specific things, but I guess this is how we learn. And some of the things in here we were, I was already reading and whatnot. But well,
yeah.
hey man, instead of saying do you want to land this bird? How about we say, do you want to bring this? You want to ride this horse into town? Why don't we try? Why don't we try changing up our animal, bringing home analogies every
Yeah.
season or every so often? But I'm ready to ride this horse on into town.
All right.
Um,
Well, our first stop is you can find us here on the social medias, as if you're watching right now or listening, you probably know. But yeah,
mhm.
you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. A few various other places for the podcast of this episode. Uh, and again, like if you're liking what we're talking about, or you just enjoy our banter, whatever, like please give us a like or subscribe or comments. Like we love the engagement. I really do. Like that's one of the reasons I like doing this podcast, is just the engagement with other people. Even if it's another comic book nerd with another podcast and YouTube channel, like it's still
Right.
fun. I'm not
Yep.
competing. I'm just having fun with y'all.
Right.
So
It's just it honestly like it feels like it's a weird form of social media itself. This like podcasting, YouTube like sphere of like comic books, you know what I mean? And it's
yeah,
fun to be in it because it's like we're not like you said, we're not trying to compete with anybody. We're all together celebrating comics. And I think that
yeah,
that's like the coolest way. So like we don't like to spread negativity regardless of how I've reviewed the first 3 comics we talked about or whatever it was. Um but no, I mean, we generally try to stay positive because it's such a cool industry. It's such a
yeah,
cool form of entertainment. And Mark, buddy,
yeah. What's up?
I was gonna go into our catchphrase, but then I realized I didn't have the video ready to go for the outro. But hey, you haven't. Why do I keep screwing this up every
Take
week?
it from the top.
I haven't read comics like this in years.